I was asked to explain some of the things that I've been doing in the videos that aren't related to the rudiments. These are the videos where you've just seen me in a practice session just playing. Today's segment is something called the Bonham 5. I kind of called it the Bonham 5 because originally I heard John Bonham do it, as well as Ginger Baker. It is a very simple technique, but the real key element here is that the notes have to be placed exactly where they need to be placed correctly and evenly in order for it to be really effective. And it has a personality of its own when you actually do get it right, because you sort of listen to it and go, wait a minute, what was that you did? So let me explain the technique first, and then I'll actually put it into some playing. I'm going to show you what the pattern is on the hands first, but I will tell you that as far as my playing goes, I'm very much not used to doing it just with the hands. I use it as a combination of hands and feet. As an example, take a quarter note and break it into two parts, into two individual eighth notes. On the first eighth note, we're going to play a triplet, a 16th note triplet. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 On the second eighth note, we're going to play two straight ahead 16ths. And I tend to do them with one hand. This will be on my right hand. You will be using your left hand. So it's kind of like it's straight ahead 16ths answering the 16th note triplet. And when you play them together, they form a really kind of unusual pattern. Now here's the tricky part. It can tend to get a little sloppy and turn into the second 2 16ths really acting like another set of 16ths with a 16th note stress in the middle. That's when it gets a little bit relaxed, because the natural tendency is to actually play. But the real key here is to really try to make it as straight as possible on the 2 16ths. Here's the other thing. On the first set of triplets, on the first triplet, try not to smush it too close together, because it almost starts sounding like a 3-stroke ruff. Not that either. It's not. Which is very cool in itself, but that's not the pattern that we're talking about. Now, I tend to use the straight ahead triplet, but then the 2 beats on the bass drum. And when you really get it moving pretty good, and between the drums, The trick with this also is you have to use temperance to the speed that you're doing it. One, because after a while it can all blur together. And it really does become just a rumble. It's not very effective. It's great to build in chop speed for all the things that we've been doing, but this one you've got to kind of use almost a governor on your playing, because first off you have to remember that if you're doing it between hands and feet, your feet have to be able to keep up with your hands, and second, you want to try to get it as accurately as possible. So much of a blur and becomes so much of a rumble. If you take it too fast, it becomes almost non-effective. People start saying, what is it that you're doing? And really what I wanted people to do is whenever I'm doing that particular pattern, I love to be playing around the set and all of a sudden go, wait a minute, what was that? And kind of use it strategically. It's also used very sparingly. You can use it at the end of a pattern, at the end of a phrase, but like I say, if you constantly do it as you do everything, it becomes, so what else is new? And you know, that people start yawning as you're playing. So use it sparingly and use it accurately at the end of a phrase. That's another thing I tend to do, and this is just me. For some unknown reason inside this head of mine, I always tend to cap the phrase off after I've done that with a flam. For some unknown reason, it's not mandatory. Nothing's mandatory, let's face it. But I always tend to cap it with a flam in order to continue. There are, if you think about it, 3 ways to do the actual bottom 5, what I call the bottom 5. First is, and they kind of all sound the same, it just depends on your head and where you put the beat, the main beat. First, you can use it with 2/16 on your feet, and then the triplet. You can also use it at the 2/16 all the way to the back. Something that I like to use when I'm playing an ostinato bass, I like to use it as 1/16, the triplet, and then the answer 16th. And it's really where you put the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because in ostinato bass, as you're going along, that's what I call the bottom 5. It's a very nice rudiment. It's not really a rudiment as such, but it's a good regimented kind of structure in order to give you some nice phrasing, especially when you're doing some solos and some nice playing. And I'll see you soon.